Hello everyone. Welcome to my video on how to make an amortization table in just a few minutes in Excel. This table will let you calculate the amount of the payment as well as anticipated payoff date, how much is going to be due at certain periods in the future. To make this table, there's really two different phases. The first phase is creating the payment or calculating the payment. The second phase is actually completing the table and copying down the series of payments. So let's get started. We're going to suppose that our loan date is, let's say today, which is 11/1/2016. Our principal amount for this loan, and we're going to start with a home mortgage payment, we're going to say is $150,000. The number of payments on a 30-year loan is going to be 360. Our interest rate, let's just assume it's going to be 4% for this exercise. Now let's calculate the payment amount using the payment function in Excel. If you ever have a need to calculate a payment with these terms, this is how you do it. So we're going to do a plus PMT. Our first variable in here is our interest rate. We're going to go ahead and click on 4%. Now this is an annual rate, but because we're going to be making monthly payments, we're going to actually have to divide that number by 12. Our second argument is a number of periods. The number of periods is going to be 360. Our third argument is our present value, the amount of the loan, $150,000. Now, as you can see, there is an FV argument, that's a future value. For this exercise, our loan is going to be amortizing down all the way to 0, so we'll leave that blank. The last argument, optional argument, is the loan type. That has to do with whether the loan is due at the beginning of the period or at the end of the period. For purposes of this exercise, and as most loans are, we're going to go ahead and use the default, which is the end of the period. So I don't have to complete those last two. These three arguments are really all I need. I close the parentheses and hit enter. We've calculated our payment of $716.12 just based on these terms. That sounds reasonable. However, Excel likes to make that a negative number, and the reason is typically negative numbers are used in a cash flow timeline. Outflows are a negative number. To make it a little easier to read, we're going to go ahead and change that to a positive number just by flipping the convention in here. Now we've set up our loan amount. Let's get started making the table. I like to number the payments over here, so I'm just going to enter a couple to get started. We're going to use Excel's autofill to fill this down. The due date is going to be 1 month from the date of the loan, which work out pretty perfect for a mortgage loan, which is due on the first of the month. So our first payment on this is going to be due 12/1/2016. Our beginning balance is up here. It's the $150,000. Now our monthly payment is going to be the $716. The amount to principal, actually let's calculate the amount to interest first, and then the remainder will be principal. So what we have here is we have 1 month outstanding on a loan at these terms you see up here. Let's get started. Our amount to interest is going to be our principal amount times our annual interest rate divided by 12. So we have $500 going to interest. Well, that worked out pretty good, didn't it? So the amount to principal is going to have to be our $716 minus our $500. So what is our ending balance going to be? It's going to be our beginning balance minus the amount to principal. So after you make your first payment, here's how much will be left on your loan. Let's fill in this second due date. The second due date is going to be 1/1/2017. Our beginning balance for this second line is our ending balance from the previous amount. That's how we get the loan to decrease over time. Monthly payment is going to be the same, the $716. The amount to principal is now going to be our beginning balance. I'm sorry, the amount to interest is going to be our beginning balance times our interest rate divided by 12. So you can see amount to interest dropping a little bit. So our amount to principal for this exercise is going to be, or for this payment I should say, is our monthly payment minus the amount to interest. And there we go, a little bit more to principal. Our ending balance is going to now be our beginning minus the amount to principal. So now we've got a couple lines completed on this. Let's go ahead and check and make sure. Actually, let's do this first. Let's drag these down to create the 360. I'm going to use Excel's auto function. I just need to seed it with a couple of numbers. It looks at it and should actually give me all of the payments down. We're going to go down 360 on this. So if I can get this to drag down a little bit. There we go, a little faster. There we go. Congratulations, that last payment will be made on 11/1/2046. Back up here to beginning balance, I'm going to go ahead and check my formulas before I drag them down. This looks like it'll work. I'm going to want to freeze this so that it locks in up here. I'm going to hit F4. That'll make that an absolute reference. Our amount to principal looks good. I want to lock that in. That's a permanent number. And then this looks good. Let's try copying this thing down. See if it works. Okay, here we go. You can see right here, our last payment, the loan drops to 0, 11/1/2046. Now we have a complete amortization table here. If someone were to say, geez, how much am I going to owe on my house on in March 2019? Well, it's going to be $143,000. So here you can see it going down. The amount of principal increases as you would expect. Now let's play around with this a little bit. Suppose you said, hey, I can do a 15-year. Let's make this a 15-year. So our number of payments are going to be 180. And as typical, I believe on a 15-year, we get a little bit better interest rate. Let's make this 3%. Now, your payment is going to go up, of course. $103,587 will be your new monthly payment. However, the loan will amortize and end a lot faster. Let's go down and see how that works. Here we are. Here is your 180th payment. Your amount is now 0, and that loan will be paid off 11/1/2031. I would ignore these negative numbers down here. It's simply a function of the formulas continuing to work out into the future and making it negative. It's not really anything that you should be too worried about. Suppose we're going to go buy a car now, and it's not a $150,000 car. Let's say our loan now is going to be $15,000. And let's say we're going to do a 5-year, so 60 payments. And let's say a car loan, we're going to go with 5%. So here's your car loan. Payment $283.07 now. Here's your car amortization table. And as you can see, drops down. Your last payment on this car, 11/1/2021, at which point the loan is completely paid off. If someone were to say, you know, how much do you think I'll owe on my car in a year? Well, you're going to owe $291.67. So I really hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and good luck with it.